For this activity, I've broken the video into two. Now that we have our table data displaying, or here's our movie data, I want to show you how we can add some basic styling. You know, you learned in your Web and Internet Fundamentals course in semester 1, you learned a little bit about basic CSS. Because this is a programming course and we're really not focused on writing our own CSS, what we're going to do is we're going to leverage an existing CSS framework. We're going to use a framework called Twitter Bootstrap. It was created by some developers at Twitter. It's an open source library that allows us to apply some basic CSS to our site really quickly and easily. In fact, many sites, they'll use Bootstrap for the framework because Bootstrap's also responsive. And then they'll add their own custom CSS on top. So for the rest of the course, we're going to use the Bootstrap style sheet. There's a couple different ways to integrate it. And I've broken this into a second video because I want to show you the two different ways we can use Bootstrap for styling. So I've created a version of this page. I'm just running it on my local host. Here's our movies page. And I've just changed it. So I'm just working with my local MySQL database for now. This is so I don't have to keep trying to hide my password in this video. So here's our query that we wrote in part 1. We fetched all the movie data and we've built out an HTML table to display it. But it has no styles. So what we want to do is use the Bootstrap library. So to do that, first we'll do the kind of quick and dirty way, and then we'll do the better way. And I'll show you the difference and I'll explain why our second method is going to be better. So the Bootstrap site, if we just go to getbootstrap.com, and to give you an idea of what this will look like, if I click on components, we can see some of the different things Bootstrap gives us. For example, actually maybe this isn't the best place to go. If we go to getting started and go to their examples, you can see the kinds of templates it gives us. Here's their basic themes. So we have things like buttons, tables, labels. And a lot of these things may look familiar. Many sites use Bootstrap, although as I said earlier, many of them will also then add custom themes on top of it. So first we'll try the quick and dirty way. If I just click on the Get Started link and scroll down, Bootstrap gives us the ability to link our website to their CDN, their content delivery network. So here in this section says Bootstrap CDN. I've got a copy link here. So I'll just click copy. And then I'll go back to my movies page, and up in the header underneath my title, I can just paste in that code. So we basically have 3 links. We have the original Bootstrap minified style sheet. Minified means it's compressed. Then we have the theme, which has some additional styles. And then we have Bootstrap's JavaScript, which also relies on jQuery, which is a front-end JavaScript library that we'll want to go and grab in a bit. So I'll just save that change. And immediately, if I go back to my page and refresh it, actually, I won't refresh. I'll open it in a new tab so we can see the difference. You'll notice we can see some changes. So our table padding and spacing is all gone. And notice our font has changed to an Arial font, and our column headings, well, they stay bold because we used TH. So we can already see. Now our table doesn't look great, so I want to apply a class to it. In fact, a few classes. So I'm going to go down here to where we're printing out our table, and I'm going to add a class definition. I'm going to use a few of the Bootstrap classes. There's a class called table, as well as table striped. They'll alternate background colors. And then we also have a Bootstrap class called table-hover. What this will do is change the background color of our table as the user moves their mouse over it. So these 3 classes, table, table-striped, and table-hover, if I apply all of them and go back and now refresh, now our table looks a lot better. Notice it scales to 100% width. We have alternating background colors of a light gray and then a white, as well as we get a slightly darker gray effect when I roll my mouse over. So that's the table hover effect. So, you know, we can see the Bootstrap documentation is great if we go into the components It allows us to choose any kind of HTML element. For example, if we want inputs for using our forms, and we can see, or we want a navigation bar, it shows us and gives us some of the class definitions that we want. So this works well. We're going to use this going forward. So the quick way was, again, just to grab from the content delivery network, grab the links and paste those in, and we have Bootstrap working. This is not the ideal way to do it, however. There's a couple reasons why. The first reason is this can be slow because our style sheets are not being loaded locally. Our style sheets are being pulled remotely from the Bootstrap server. So that's one issue, is it may hurt performance on our site. The other thing is, by keeping our style sheets remote up on the Bootstrap CDN, we don't get any code hinting. These styles don't show up in our code editor when we type class equals. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to delete those files, and we're going to download the files locally instead. So what I'm going to do in my week 3 folder, I'm going to create two subfolders here. So in my PHP Storm, I'm going to right click my week 3, and I'm going to make a new directory, which I will call CSS. I'm then going to right click and make a second directory in my week 3 folder called JS for JavaScript. And now what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to go back to get Bootstrap. And this time I'm going to click the download link. So right now we're on version 3.3.7. Version 4 is in beta, but it's in beta for a long time, so we don't want to use it yet. So I'm going to click the download button, and I'll just save this to my week 3 folder. Downloads quickly. And now I'm going to go into my week 3 folder, and I'm just going to extract the Bootstrap files and go into my folder. So what I'm going to do, actually, I guess we didn't really need to create our own CSS fonts in JS. I'm just going to cut these 3 folders, and I'm just going to paste them into my week 3, and I will merge with my blank JS folder. So now in my CSS, I have the Bootstrap, both the full and the minified compressed versions, as well as I have the Bootstrap JavaScript. So now I want to add these things back to my movies page, but this time we're going to add local references rather than the references we used in our content delivery network. So inside of my head tag, I'm going to add a little CSS comment. I'm going to add 2 links. So we'll say rel equals style sheet, and my href is equal to, I can double click my CSS directory. And here we want the Bootstrap minified CSS. So bootstrap.min.css. There's our first link. And then we also want the Bootstrap theme style sheet. So we'll add one more style sheet, href equals. And we want the minified, the compressed, because it's the most efficient, the fastest, the bootstrap-theme.min.css. I can just hit enter and PHP Storm selects it. So there are my 2 style sheets. Now, when we use the CDN, if I go back to the Bootstrap site for a minute, they said just put this, well, they recommended it kind of goes in the header, but typically we don't install client-side JavaScript in the header. We want it down near the bottom of our page, and the reason is because that way our page will load faster. And so typically our client-side JavaScripts go down just before our ending body tag. So I'm going to add in a script tag with the source being equal to our JS folder. And we want the minified Bootstrap JavaScript. That's optional. We don't need it. Some of the Bootstrap CSS effects use this JavaScript file, so it's probably a good idea to add it. So again, we've added these two links in our header, bootstrap.min.css, bootstraptheme.min.css, and our Bootstrap JavaScript at the bottom. Now here was our page using the Content Delivery Network. I'll just open a new tab. Now that we're using the same CSS, this is our remote version using the CDN, and this is our local version using our local Bootstrap. They look the same, they work the same way, but again, I prefer this for a couple reasons. This is going to be faster because our paths are local, but there's one other big factor. Let me just take out my class definition for a minute, and I'm going to put it back. On this version, because our CSS is local, now when I type class equals, my code editor recognizes all of the classes available in the Bootstrap file. When we use the CDN, we didn't get this code hinting. So for example, when I start typing table, the classes come up. So table striped, which for some reason doesn't come up, I'm not sure why, and table hover. So my code hinting is much better by having our CSS links local rather than remote. So you can use the Content Delivery Network method where you just copy and paste the links in. I don't really recommend it. You may see it in some of the files, some of the videos later on in the course, but generally I would recommend you're better off to download the files and extract them and have your own local CSS and JS folders. So we're going to work with Bootstrap more. I know it's new for you. There's some great tutorials right on the Get Bootstrap website, which you're free to check out. And we're going to use it moving forward. So now I want to do one more page for this lesson. Sorry, I guess it'd be two more pages really. I want to look at, we've created 2 pages, one where we just select the movie titles, one where we've now created tabular data in a grid of rows and columns. One of the other ways we query data from a database frequently is by populating a drop-down list. So we have a bunch of data in our database. Let's say it's maybe a list of products. It could be a list of locations. If we're a website like Blackboard, it might be a list of courses. And we want to give the user the ability to choose one of those options. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a page where the user can select one of the movie titles and click a button, and then it will go to another page, and that page is going to show all the information about the movie the user selected. So let's go back to our code editor, and we'll create a new PHP file called select movie. And we'll use Bootstrap here. So we'll add our links back in. So we'll add a link. And again, our link will be CSS/Bootstrap minified. And we can look at some of the classes that Bootstrap makes available for forms. So we'll also add in our theme. We'll use, again, same 2 CSS files, and maybe down at the bottom, comment here, and there's our JS comment again. Reference the minified Bootstrap. Put on a heading. We'll put on a quick form about last week. We'll use method equals post, and the page that's going to receive this, our action page, will be called display movie.php. So in here, we'll add a field set. And we'll add on a label for title. Now we'll add on an HTML select tag. This is going to create a drop-down. We'll give it a name of title, an ID of title. And then we'll close that tag. And then below our field set, we'll add a button. Class, we'll make it a blue button. So Bootstrap has buttons, classes for buttons. We'll use btn for button. And our class btn-primary will make it a royal blue button with white text. So we'll have it look like this for now. We can see what our page looks like in the browser. We've used Bootstrap, we've set up our form, but our drop-down list is going to be empty so far. Let's have a look. So if I go to my select movie, here's what we look like so far. Our drop-down is empty. And in fact, you know what? Maybe I'll put my button right after my drop-down instead. It doesn't need to go on another line. Let's refresh that. So now we need to, similar to what we did on our movies page, where we queried the database, ran a query to get all the movie data. This time we want to run a query just to get the titles, and we want to display them in this drop-down list. So inside of my select tag, we're going to open up a set of PHP tags, open and close. We're going to get the movie titles. This is something you'll need to do in assignment 1 is populate one drop-down list from a database query. So the first thing we'll do is set up our SQL query, which will be select title, movies. We'll create our connection to our database as we've done before. We're using the MySQL library. Now, I'm going to just use my local host for this activity. Name. You'll use your own database connection. My username and my password, which is blank on my machine. You'll need to enter your own credentials. Then we'll create a new command. Calling the prepare method of our connection and passing in our query. This code is exactly the same as what we have on our movies page so far. Now we'll execute our command. We'll populate an array called movies by calling the fetch all method. So now movies should have all of the movie titles. So now what we need to do, just like on our movies page, we're going to need to use a for each loop to go through each movie. So movies is our entire collection, and we'll call each one a movie. Now, on our movies page, we created new table rows and columns for every movie. We don't need to do that here. We're going to use different HTML wrapping around. Instead of using TR and TD tags, we are going to use HTML option tags. So for each movie, we'll print out an option, and then inside of that option, we want to display the movie title. And then every option has a closing option. And lastly, we'll add each movie title to the drop down. Wrapped in option tags. We have an opening tag, the movie title, and a closing tag for each movie. Disconnect by setting our connection to null. So almost all our code is the same as on our movies page, except we didn't create a table, and we're using option tags instead of TRs and TDs. We'll save this, and let's have a look at how it runs in the browser now. So when I refresh, now we get our movies populated in our list. Now, they're not in a great order. I think we should fix this. They're just displaying in the order we entered them in the database. If this list is very long, it would make it very difficult for someone to find the movie they were looking for. So we can see when we view the source of the page, we get an option, an end option tag around each one of our movies. So if we want to display this list alphabetically, we can just modify our SQL query a little bit. At the end of my select statement, and you're going to learn this in a few weeks in your database course, I'm going to add order by title. So this will order the movies from A to Z with the highest title first. And go and refresh. And now our list is sorted alphabetically from A to Z, which is great. We can see again, we've used Bootstrap. We can see the font got changed to Arial and our button is blue. Our little BTM primary is styling that button. So we're going to use that particular Bootstrap class for most of our buttons through the course. Now when I click go, it's going to post to display movie. Well, this page doesn't exist. We can quickly build this one. And then our lesson for today is done. So make one more page called display movie. Put on title. And I'm going to copy the Bootstrap links. I'll just grab my CSS from select movie and paste it into the head section. And I'll grab my Bootstrap JavaScript and do the same. Put on a heading, movie details. Now we'll open our PHP tags. We'll create a variable called title. And we'll use our form post because our dropdown has a name of title. We can refer to the selected option using $_post title. Then we'll set up the query and fetch the selected movie. Our SQL query will be select star from movies. Now we don't want all movies. We only want the selected movie. So we're going to say where title equals, and then we're going to set up a parameter or placeholder for the title. We'll connect to the database as we did before. Again, make sure you use your credentials, not mine. They're not going to work for you. We'll create a new command. And my autocomplete saves me from typing everything and minimizes errors. So we'll prepare. But we can't run the query yet because what we need to do is we need to populate this title parameter. We want to take our title variable and inject it. We want to take this value and inject it in here. So we're going to populate that parameter before we run the query. Much like we did last week when we were saving a new movie. So we'll take our command object and call our bind param method. So we're filling our title variable. Keep in mind, I'm not typing these little words in gray. These are just code hints, code prompts for the method parameters that my PHP Storm code editor is giving me. Now we can call execute. So far, things are fairly similar. We set up a query, we've added a parameter and filled it, we've connected to the database. Our fetch operation is going to be a little different. We've used fetch all earlier in this lesson, because we're selecting multiple records. In this case, we're only adding a single record, so we can use a more efficient version of fetch. Instead of getting a movies array with a loop, we can just say movie singular equals our command fetch. So fetch will select a single record, a single row of data. Fetch all will select multiple rows of data. So we don't need a for each loop because we only have one single movie returned. So now we can just print out if we want. Print the movie title. I would better do this in single quotes. Just put each value on a new line. So we have title. Here. Our length. And our URL. So, and then we can disconnect. So let's see how this works. We're going to go back and pick a movie. And now my page gives me all the information. I'm going to pick any other movie. Our query, our fetch operation is working. The last thing we want to do is let's actually make our URL a link that the user can click. So we'll make one more change around this URL. Let's add an HTML anchor tag. We're going to add a double quote. We're going to use that URL twice. So the movie URL becomes our href tag on our A, and then also our anchor displays the URL. So we got to watch our quotes carefully. We added a double quote here and here. Let's see how this looks. We'll repost the form data, and now we've got a link. So if we want to go and pick another movie, we've now got active links. And that's it for this activity.